You know, when you hear about a corporate takeover, it's easy to picture a giant fish swallowing a smaller one, right? It's this world of high stakes deals, boardroom drama. But in all that action, have you ever wondered what happens to the smallest players? You know, the regular folks, the individual investors. Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down today. The official rulebook that makes sure when control of a company changes hands, every single shareholder gets a fair shake. All right, let's dive right in by, getting our terms straight. The world of corporate restructuring has its own language, and to really get the rules, we first need to know the key players and the key terms. We're talking about things like mergers, acquisitions, and of course, takeovers. So the big difference here really boils down to intent. A merger is usually a mutual decision. Think of it like two companies deciding to become one big new entity. It's more of a partnership. A takeover, on the other hand, or an acquisition, that's different. That's one company buying another. Now, it can be friendly, for sure, but sometimes it can get a little hostile, where the company being bought might not be so thrilled about it. And this is the absolute heart of the matter. I mean, when a new owner swoops in, they've negotiated a price for a huge, controlling chunk of shares. But what about the person who just owns 100 shares? Are they just left behind, at the mercy of the new bosses? Do they even get a say? This is the exact problem that these regulations were created to solve. So the solution comes in the form of a really detailed and powerful rulebook. And we're not just talking about a set of vague guidelines here. This is a legally binding framework, and it was created for one specific reason: to level the playing field and protect those very investors we were just talking about. And here it is, the SEBI Takeover Code. Now, SEBI, that stands for the Securities and Exchange Board of India. They're the market regulator, and they're the ones who created these rules. The whole idea is to make sure everything is fair and transparent. When a company's ownership or control is about to change, the small minority shareholders have to be given a clear choice to exit their investment if they want to. It's all about preventing sketchy backroom deals and protecting the little guy. So how does the code actually pull this off? Well, it's through one central, really powerful mechanism. If you only remember one thing from all this, make it this: the open offer. You can think of it as the hero of our story, the key tool that enforces fairness for every single person involved. Okay, so what in the world is this mandatory open offer? The best way to think about it is like a safety switch. When a person or a company gets in big enough stake or takes control of another company, the switch gets flipped. And when it does, they are legally required to make an offer to all the other shareholders. That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? What actually flips that switch? Well, the code is super specific about this. It lays out these crystal clear thresholds, and if you cross any one of them, bam, you are automatically required to make that open offer to the public. Let's take a look at what they are. So the first trigger is all about the numbers. The moment an acquirer, or a group of people working together, is about to cross that 25% threshold of voting rights in a company, the open offer becomes mandatory. That's the line in the sand. 25% is seen as a substantial acquisition, a point where your influence becomes pretty significant, and so other shareholders have to be given a way out. Now, the second trigger isn't about a percentage of shares. It's all about power. You have to make an open offer if you gain control of the target company, no matter how many shares you have. And control has a specific definition. It means you have the power to appoint most of the directors, or you can control major policy decisions. Basically, if you're the one steering the ship now, you trigger the offer. You know, the code is also pretty smart. It anticipates the loopholes. To stop someone from trying to sneakily buy up shares just under the radar, a tactic called creeping acquisition, there's another rule. If you already own between 25% and the maximum limit, you can't buy more than 5% in one financial year without, you guessed it, triggering an open offer. It closes that loophole tight. And what's really important to get is that this is not a casual process. Oh no. Once an offer is triggered, a super strict, legally required sequence of events kicks off. You have to appoint a registered merchant banker to run the show. You have to make a public announcement in the newspapers, secure all the funds in a special escrow account, and then formally mail out a letter of offer to every single shareholder. No exceptions. This quote, straight from the regulations themselves, just nails it. It gets right to the heart of the whole thing. It's not just about giving shareholders a chance to sell. It's about giving them a chance to sell their shares at a fair price. That's the key. So what is a fair price? Well, it isn't just a number pulled out of a hat. It's actually calculated based on really strict, transparent criteria set by SEBI. the offer price has to be the highest of several different calculations, like the highest price the acquirer recently paid for shares, or the average market price over the last couple of months. This makes sure the offer truly reflects the value that the new buyer sees in the company. Okay, so you've got this whole complex process. It needs a guide, right? A neutral referee to make sure all the rules are being followed to the letter. And this is where a really important player comes into the picture: the merchant banker. Here's the deal. An acquirer literally cannot move forward with an open offer until they've appointed a SEBI-registered merchant banker. And what's really critical is that the merchant banker can't be a buddy of the acquirer. They have to be independent. And that's because their main job is to manage the offer and make sure every single rule in the takeover code is being met, protecting both the buyer and all the shareholders. And this list, wow, it really drives home just how vital they are. The merchant banker isn't just an advisor. They are legally on the hook for this stuff. They have to check that the acquirer actually has the money to pay for the shares, that all the announcements and letters are accurate, that the money is safe in escrow, and that any complaints from investors are handled properly. They are truly the guardians of this entire process. So we've got this whole detailed set of rules, triggers, and these guardians overseeing everything. But let's step back for a second. What's the real-world impact here? Why does having this strong framework matter so much? Well, first and foremost, it's all about fairness. By forcing an open offer at a calculated fair price, the code gives the small investors the exact same opportunity to exit as the huge institutional shareholders. It completely levels the playing field. Second, it forces everything out into the light of day. The mandatory public announcements, the detailed offer letters. It all means that a change in a company's control can't just happen behind closed doors. And that kind of transparency is absolutely fundamental for building trust in the market. And in the end, everything we've talked about comes back to one thing: protecting the small investor. The takeover code gives minority shareholders the power of choice. They can look at the offer, analyze it, and decide for themselves: do I want to sell my shares and cash out, or am I cool with staying on with the new management? The power is finally in their hands. So this all leaves us with a final, really crucial question to think about. I mean, takeovers and mergers are a natural, healthy part of business growth and a dynamic economy. But as we've seen, that growth can't come at the expense of fairness and transparency. The Takeover Code is India's answer to this balancing act, a framework that tries to let businesses evolve while making absolutely sure that no one gets left behind in the process.